Hi, welcome to Detours Understanding Acquired Brain Injury. And this is the last of our series on essentials of acquired brain injury. And we're going to talk about speculative or possible sources of acquired brain injury as we're closing this out. And when it comes to speculative sources, these are things where research in animals or in anecdotal reports of acquired brain injury from patients who've gone to neurology clinics or who've reported symptoms, and where other types of acquired brain injury have been ruled out and where they still have symptoms. And so it's like maybe this is the reason why you're having neurological symptoms. And so these are some possibilities. And many of these are backed up by animal studies. For example, one area that has seen a lot of research is into micro and nanoscale plastics. These are down to, you're talking about hundreds, thousands of a meter. So you're talking about extremely small size plastics. And nanoplastics can be as small as a billionth of a meter. Things that are small enough to get inside of cells. And they can get inside cells through, these are plastics that have been around for a while. I mean, we've been working with plastic for 125, 130 years. And so these plastics get into your cells through whether you drink it, in your water, in the food chain, even inhaled. The smallest ones continuously float in the air and you wouldn't know it. The problem is when these kind of things get into the human body, the human body can't get rid of them. They get inside neurons or glial cells, the support cells, and they can affect the genetics, your DNA, your RNA. They can affect cellular reproduction, and they can even change potentially the germ cells and alter how cells reproduce. They can outright kill the cell. They can destroy how DNA is read. So these are some of the concerns, that we have with micro and nanoplastics. We also have concerns that they feed the development of clots, micro and larger scale clots. On examination of blood clots when they've been removed from blood vessels is that 1/3 of all clots have as their basis these nanoscale plastics, these microplastics that have served to build the clot. And so obviously they're playing a role in things like strokes and ischemic damage. And we know that micro nano metals, which such as tin, gold, silver, titanium, and iron, play a role in triggering an immune response. And so it seems reasonable to suppose that the plastics likewise also feed an immune response. And so it's, we should be concerned here, especially then when it comes to how we handle plastic waste, things like this. However, since we don't have, outside of animals and these specific examination of clots or of placentas, where we've taken a look at after birth, quite literally, the placentas, and have found that there are these micro and nanoplastics in the placentas. They looked at, I think it was 1,000 of these placentas, and they found nanoplastics and microplastics in all of them. All of them. And we don't know exactly what the long-term effects are. They do clearly contribute to inflammation. And again, neuroinflammation, we see this associated with secondary acquired brain injury. So again, it's a reasonable conclusion, but not a statement you can definitively make. Experimental evidence has shown that nanoscale metals definitely do damage, and we know that they can alter how enzymes function and can lead to destruction of cellular membranes and break down cells. So it's, again, a reasonable supposition when it comes to that these things, which are ubiquitous in the environment, do have some kind of long-term effect. And we'd have to ask the question then, is everybody exposed to these, not only in like bottled water or what comes out of the tap, but what you eat, when you breathe? Do we all have some degree of low-grade damage from this? Or can we handle up to a certain level, and only people exposed to a very high level, those who are in manufacturing, or these nanoscale metals are found in cosmetics, they're found in spray paints, they're found in they're in exhaust, they're found they're found in other volatile organic compounds. So is there maybe a certain level which the body can tolerate, and only above that there's damage? Or is it bad no matter what the level? We don't know this. It's the same thing with the plastics. Is there a certain level at which we say, almost like radiation, we can handle a certain level, but above that there's an unsafe level? Or is no level safe at all? Again, unknown. And so this is one of those kind of serious kind of things, because they're both synthetic and we don't know. And of course, that leads us to certain medications. A number of the antipsychotics and things like NSAIDs, anti-inflammatories, while they're definitely beneficial for pain control and other things like that, there do seem to be, at least in animal studies, neurotoxic effects for some of these. We don't know. Obviously, when they do animal studies, they expose mice and other animals to enormously high doses, far beyond what you or I would take to control a headache or whatever. Even if we take it daily, they're giving grams and grams and grams relative to body weight, of course, for with animals and things like that. So naturally, the equivalency is questionable. But is there a different, are there factors that apply here? Interactions with other medications? Don't know. They do find that it can affect your levels of apathy and indifference. So there are mood-related effects in people. Studies have supported that. So because there seems to be a need to be able to have bodily inputs. And as you need to feel pain and to perceive it in order to have a certain level of empathy. So there may be some kind of neuropsychiatric effects there with certain NSAIDs and things. But again, this connection is not fully fleshed out or well understood yet. Also then, there are questions about like whether certain antibiotics or whether certain other medications that are antimicrobial have an effect also, because they affect your gut bacterial count. And we definitely know that there's a relationship between your gut microbiome and brain inflammation, but it's not spelled out yet. And this is another area for research, and we're still trying to figure out how that works too. And does that worsen, or does it help with, as far as with acquired brain injury is concerned? Do we need to also be checking the gut microbiome? Again, if that is adversely affected due to GI problems, might you then also be developing acquired brain injury type symptoms from a gut microbiome imbalance? Don't know. We do see effects in animals. I don't know how much this applies to humans as far as this kind of shift in balance. Another area that we're not sure about. Vibrations, low frequency vibrations for protracted periods. We know that it affects mice. If they're exposed to very low frequency vibrations, basically the equivalent of riding in a car or working with jackhammers, or like, when you're subjected to long periods. And some neuroscientists have speculated that part of the reason you feel fatigue after a long car journey is these low frequency vibrations through your body, which, reach your brain and may do white matter damage as well as kill off gray matter. But do animal studies translate to humans in that same way? Is a full year of commuting the same as the 8 weeks they subject the mice to for very low frequency vibrations? What about sound? Continuous exposure to low frequency sound affects brain development in certain animals. What about humans? Does living in a noisy city or near railroad tracks, or near an airport or something, alter brain development? Does it affect the way the nervous system works? Again, we don't know, but these are all potential speculative areas. What about repeat ear infections, colds, sinus problems? Do these cause brain injury? It's a speculation, and this one is based on anecdotal evidence from reports from patients, and who say, gee, I'm not functioning. I've had a bunch of colds and things over the last 2 or 3 years, and now my cognition is slowed down. And when compared to age cohorts, there are definitely differences. Repeat migraine sufferers, same things, and there are even there are spots of hyperintensity on MRIs suggesting there's brain damage from the migraines, or it could be the other way around. They have the migraines because they have neurological problems. But we see this with other diseases too. Gum disease. To what extent does gingival inflammation, gingivitis, and periodontitis cause brain injury? There's, again, anecdotal evidence from people that having oral problems affects the brain. Is it clear, strong, hard evidence? Not exactly, but there is support for this. It's an area of research. High blood pressure for protracted periods of time that's not controlled. There's definitely support not only for strokes, but for hypoxic events, vasoconstriction, possibly small-scale edema. So if you're a person with uncontrolled high blood pressure, a person with uncontrolled diabetes, things like this, doing permanent brain injury. Yes. Probably don't know. How long? How long you have to have it? What kind of other factors play into it? So I just wanted to quickly go over some things that we definitely know contribute to the development of acquired brain injury in some way, seem to. And we will be watching, as research comes out. But the reason we made this the closing topic is all of us are exposed to factors that put us at risk, and maybe all of us do have some degree of acquired brain injury, but we're trying to figure out in neuroscience what things cause the most significant levels of brain injury. And we talked about traumatic brain injury. We talked about hypoxic and ischemic brain injury, which is where the neurons are starved of oxygen and nutrition. We talked about energy-based brain injury. We talked about infectious brain injury. We talked about cancer, neoplastic syndromes. We talked about now some speculative sources of brain injury. They're all different kinds. And one of my professors was adamant that everyone has some degree of acquired brain injury, before the end of their lives. And evidence does seem to suggest that he was right. But it's not to alarm anyone. This is more about awareness, and awareness that this kind of thing can affect, and probably does affect, everyone. And so it's important for you to advocate strongly for the concerns of your own concerns as well as other people who have acquired brain injury, and to be aware and to study and to know how it may affect you and your loved ones. All right. So just please, if you have any questions, you have any thoughts, you have anything you'd like to add, please put in the comments below. We hope you enjoyed this series. Please click like, subscribe. And we will be getting into specific types within each of the categories throughout this series as time goes on. So just keep in mind the Essential series was just like a 30,000 foot view. And so just wanted everyone to understand that. And hope you have a good day and keep following along. And don't forget to check out our website, Friends with Brain Injury, and our Facebook's group, which is also Friends with Brain Injury. And you'll find other information and other people to share information with, ask questions, and hopefully you find other answers there. Have a good day. Bye.